Hello, so I'm Deborah. I'm here to talk to you about story. Now, I think you don't have to be very good at story in the business world to be considered brilliant at it, because the bar for communication in the business world is so low. I mean, it's so spectacularly low. I went to a law firm recently, and I was doing like a lunchtime seminar, and they have these sort of every month. I do a lot for diversity, a lot for women's networks on charismatic behaviour, and that's what I was doing. And I went in, and the lady was miking me up and everything, and she said, "Oh, by the way," she said, "just to let you know, all of the lawyers that you speak to today will be on their Blackberries while you're speaking. Don't take it personally." And I said, well, I will take it personally, because if they're on their Blackberries, I'm not interesting. And, you know, I would prefer that you did not pay me under those circumstances. I will not bill you if they are on their Blackberries the whole time. And she went, no, but it's just they're lawyers, so they're really busy, and that's why they'll be on their Blackberries. And I said, well, yeah, but if Lady Gaga came in and started singing Born This Way, would they look up? And she went, well, yeah, I suppose they would. And I said, well, it's my job to be as interesting as Lady Gaga. It's not their job to look up from their Blackberries of their own accord. But I find it fascinating, because they have speakers in there every month. They're paying thousands of pounds to speakers who are evidently less interesting than email. I find that absolutely extraordinary. Of course they did all look up, and of course they didn't have their Blackberries out. And I understand that this is the age we live in, that, you know, we're all expected to respond very quickly. So of course there might be somebody who at exactly 2 o'clock needs to send a quick email or needs to check something. But if people are sitting on their Blackberries the whole time, scrolling through, if even 50% of your audience is mostly looking down while you're speaking, you're not interesting enough. There's no other way of looking at that. Because they would look up if they felt compelled to look up. That's what human beings do. We can be on email on a bus, but if something breaks out, you know, there's a little tiff or a fight, or even just someone has an emotional change, even if you notice there's a couple sitting next to you and the woman starts to cry, you think, oh, are they breaking up? What's going on? That's always more interesting than email. Always. But after a while, if she keeps crying and nothing seems to change, we can look back to our email then at that point, right? But if she starts shouting, we think, oh no, this has got good again, because she's changed again. We're very, very drawn towards story. We're very, very drawn towards it. And when people give presentations in front of audiences, I think most of the time we've forgotten why we give presentations, or what would be good content for a presentation? Because most of the presentations I see in the business world are just dispensing information. That's all they're doing. They're just like, here's a thing, and here's another thing. And here's another thing you need to know, and here's another thing that you probably don't need to know, but you might like to know it. Here's some more things, and some more things. And while I tell you about those things, I'd also like you to read about those things at the same time. Could you keep reading while I'm talking? Keep reading while I'm talking. Keep reading while I'm talking. Here are some things. But information is not best dispensed by one human being talking to another. If you want someone to know a bunch of stuff, then email them. Or even at an event like this, you could give them all a pack and say, I'm going to give you 10 minutes to read that. Because everyone will read at their own rate, assimilate at their own rate. They'll skip the bits that aren't relevant to them. That would be a better way to give out information. If one human being has come into a room with another human being or more and bothered to turn up to interact, it's got to be to make the audience feel or think differently. That's the only good reason for you to turn up and stand up the front. If you're going to make the audience feel something different or think something different, when they leave, they should be in a changed state. And that is very rarely the point of a contemporary business presentation. Now, we know that the great dynamic... You know, sometimes you see an amazing presentation, you go, oh, that was fantastic. And that's just, it really leaps out, and it just seems to be so different from all the other ones at the conference or whatever event you're at. That person generally has two things. One is they're charismatic. They know how to hold the attention of the room. They know how to be compelling in front of an audience. They like being in front of an audience. And the other thing is they're usually telling a good story. Now, I do seminars on charismatic behaviour. It's really easy, charismatic behaviour. People think it's very difficult. They think you're born with it or you're not. That's definitely not true. It's very unlikely you will see a newborn baby and go, oh, look, he just lights up the room, give him a chat show. Nobody's born with it. Some people learn it intuitively in secondary school to get boys to like them or girls to like them or to get bullies to leave them alone. Some people get a coach. Barack Obama got a coach. Taught himself because he wanted to be president. It's what I would say it's one of the easiest things to learn, charisma. It's not magic. It's just slight changes in behaviour. It's definitely easier than learning to ride a horse or classical violin. It's got to be. But here's the thing. I do seminars on that. But if you give somebody a compelling story to tell, they will automatically be more charismatic. If I were to show you a video with the sound turned off of somebody dispensing information, just giving a regular corporate presentation, and then that same person talking about a great holiday they've had or a terrible holiday they've had, you would be able to tell the difference with the sound turned down because of how charismatic they look, how animated they look, how emotional they look. They are just more compelling. And the reason is they don't dispense the information about what the holiday was like in the same way as they dispense the information about the quarterly report or whatever it is they're trying to tell, or the sort of, the Vision 2020 or whatever it is. And the reason is when we talk about our holidays, we automatically tell stories. We can't help ourselves. It's very unlikely you will turn up to meet a friend in the pub and you say, how was your holiday? And they'll say, well, I'd just like you to read, I've put the bullet points here. While I tell you, could you just keep reading that? Right, okay. This year's holiday, I'm pleased to report, was 20% better than last year's holiday, as you will be able to see from that graph. It's never going to happen. They go, well, when we got there, the hotel hadn't got the booking. And we were like, oh my God, we're stranded. It's a tiny island. There was nowhere for us to stay. And then they said, oh, the only place we've got is this kind of exclusive villa that apparently Brad Pitt had once stayed in, and that's always empty because no one can afford it. So we got upgraded to this incredible thing because they'd lost the booking, which was brilliant. And what they're doing here, first of all, they're telling you a story, but what they're doing here is all the devastation of, oh my God, we've got no booking, we're going to be on the street. Oh my God, we're in the Brad Pitt villa. Everybody tells you about their holiday that way. They don't dispense it into information, they put it into a story. It's how human beings communicate all the time. It's how you always talk to your friends. And if you've ever been to an event, like, if you've ever at a wedding and you're sitting next to strangers or a networking event, and you know that awful feeling of small talk, which is what networking is, yeah? Networking is small talk. I think networking really is talking to somebody when you'd rather be talking to somebody else. Because we've all got friends in our own industries, and when you meet your friends or you have an amazing conversation with someone new in your industry, you don't call it networking. You go, oh my God, I met this amazing guy. Or, oh, I caught up with Jim and Tina. Oh, we've had so much fun. We stayed in the pub far too long. You don't call that networking, even though they're in your industry. Networking is specifically, that term is specifically means people we would rather not be talking to but feel we should be. All it can mean, really. So maybe you can take your card so I can use you later. It's just an awful, awful thing. And the reason it feels awful is that it doesn't facsimile friendship in any way. And it's because what you're doing is you give each other small snippets of information, like a terrible corporate presentation, back and forth, back and forth. So what do you do? Oh, I'm in marketing. Oh. Thinking, you can't help me at all then. Stuck here, I can't just walk away now. Screwed. Oh, okay. Have you come far? Who cares? Who cares how far? I don't care how far you've come. I don't care how far any of you have come to be here today. I'm sorry. I mean, unless it was an amazing story, unless it's someone who's flown in from Hong Kong. I don't care if you're from Camden or Camberwell. I don't care. So those kind of exchange, you don't care where I'm from either. It's small snippets of information, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. Now, that's why it feels tough. when you meet people you like, and you go, I met this guy and he was so interesting, we had such fun. That meant, if you look back, it's always because you switched stories. It's always he told you a great story, or he got a great story out of you. That's always what happened. Because that facsimiles friendship, when you feel you have an instant connection or friendship with someone, that's what's happening. So if you want to create great relationships, find ways to swap stories. So instead of saying to someone, what do you do? Ask them what the best day they've had at work in the last year is. Because they will generally tell you a story that starts with a terrible day and ends up with them being a hero. No one's going to go, oh, I took a personal day. I went to the zoo. It's not going to happen. They're going to go, oh, well, actually, last month we had this terrible crisis on. And they will tell you what they do, but in the context of a story. If you are up here giving a presentation, if you're in front of a room full of people and you want to be compelling, you need to tell a story. It's the reason why Breaking Bad is more compelling than a Newsnight article on drugs in your area. If Newsnight's on and you think you should watch it, shouldn't you really? You should watch Newsnight because then you should find out things that you should know. But if the phone rings, you will take it. Because you know, if you take a phone call in the middle of Newsnight and you miss 5 minutes, you've missed 5 minutes of Newsnight. So you've missed 10 minutes of a 60-minute programme, you've missed, what percentage is that? 10 minutes of a 60-minute programme. Rob? I don't know percentages, that's why you're here. No, okay, some of the programme. Well, okay, 10 minutes of a 100-minute programme, 10%. How much? 15%. Well done. She's made you look bad, Rob, hasn't she? 15%. What's your name? Oh, you're his boss. Oh, that's awkward. And see, why do we applaud and laugh about that? Because what is that? What's that now? It's not just information, it's a story. Because everything that's implied there, that I've asked him in front of her, so his status is lowered because she knows the answer to that. It's all a story, but it's a very quick story, as it should be, Rob. I'm so sorry if I've got you fired. Have you resigned already? Is that true? Oh my God! It's more story, people! This is a proper story, this is like a soap opera! Where do you work? You're not telling now. Partnership. Is that the name of a firm? Yes. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, if anyone's looking for a job, Partnership has an opening. Yeah, that's more story. If you can do percentages, hit up Michelle for a job because she's open to someone who knows that 10 minutes of a 60-minute programme is 15%. She might be wrong, but don't say that because none of us know. Say you're definitely right and we will all buy that. Okay, so the reason that if you can answer the phone because you've missed 15% of that programme, but if you miss 10 minutes in the middle of Breaking Bad, you haven't missed 15%, have you? Because you come back in and you don't know what's going on anymore. You could have missed half the information you need to understand what's happening now, right? That's why story is more compelling, because you can't look away or you'll miss something important. You can't come in, even a terrible B movie, if you come in halfway through, you won't be able to work out what's going on. And even a terrible B movie, if you've watched half of it, and then you think, oh, I can't bother with it, you go to bed, you do wonder, think, oh, I wish I'd watched that now. I don't know, did he get the kidney transplant? I don't know. I'll never know now. I'll just look it up on IMDb. I need to know. We have a need to know story. We do not need to know, if we've seen 10% of Newsnight, what the next bit is, because these bits are often disconnected, right? So, this session, and it doesn't matter how you're using it, whether it be e-learning, whether it be presenting, whether it be relationship building, sales, whatever it is, this session is about how to tell stories. And you will all be able to join the dots back to the medium you want to put that back into. For this, I need a volunteer. I need one person to come out. Now, you see this reaction? Okay, so what's your name? Keith. Big round of applause for Keith. Well done, Keith. Keith, you're from TFL. Yeah. What's that? I thought thought it was. But I didn't want to say, Keith, in case I was wrong. But I should have known because you've got a bus badge going on there. Brilliant. No, not sad. Not sad, Keith. Delightful. OK, so can I just ask for a second? When I said, can I have a volunteer, what feeling went through you? What was, for most people, there will be some kind of fear, especially the people down the front. And for some people, panic. People at the back are thinking, oh, thank God I couldn't get a seat now. That's really put an up. Because that's the feeling we get. And it doesn't matter what room I'm in, if I ask for a volunteer, that same awkward thing happened. People look down, there's a terrible silence, and then someone like Keith feels sorry for me. He goes, I can't bear it. I can't bear the silence. All right, I'll do it. Right? Is that what went through your mind? Did you feel a bit sorry for me, Keith? You did feel a bit sorry for me, didn't you? You're a frustrated presenter. Do you? Oh, well, I'll sit down. Don't be frustrated, Keith. I hate to frustrate. This has gone awry, hasn't it? For a breakfast. This feels more like drinks. It's another story. Okay. All right. For most people, that goes through you. And if you're in learning, do you understand that anybody who's going to do a new thing will get that same feeling? Even in a room full of people who are in learning, you get that feeling of, oh God, I don't want to volunteer. There's only one group of people. I sometimes teach at RADA, you know, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, where the actors go, and you'd think, oh, well, they would be brilliant at volunteering because they've signed up for 3 years of acting and they've paid loads to do it. They're worse because they see any opportunity to have a go at acting as an opportunity to demonstrate that they slipped through the cracks, they should never have been accepted to the academy, and they are basically talentless. And they're the one. They're the one in their year. They're going to get asked to leave. No, we didn't mean you, Sarah Brown. Another Sarah Brown. So they don't want to have a go. There's only one sort of people, group of people. If I invited them in here and then said, could I have a volunteer, would I get almost everyone volunteering, if not everyone volunteering? Do you know who those people are? Yeah, children. Children. Because children come into a session like this with a very, very different metric. They want lots of goes. That is how they measure their success. How many goes did I get? That is the only measurement of success. How many goes could I get? They will sometimes say to me, well, I had 4 goes, and Billy only had 3 goes, so I think we know who the winner was there. That's how they measure. I love it. I love the way they measure success. They're not interested in the quality of any one go. That's not how they measure it. They just want lots of goes. And if they come in, they were told this was about story, and then the person at the front said volunteer, they'd be like, like that. They go, and then the child that I pick looks like they have won the lottery. Like, this is it, it's finally happened. And all the other kids go, like they have missed out on one of life's great opportunities that may never come round again. And sometimes one of them will go, can I be first next time, Deborah? Because first is a big deal with children, first. As grown-ups, we don't want to go first. We want to sit back in our chairs, hold off, watch someone else do it, preferably Keith. Assess from our seats whether we would be any good at it. If we think we would be good, then and only then do we want a go. If we think we would not be good, we would rather have no go at all. That is why it's very difficult for grown-ups to learn anything, because we only want to have goes at things we're already good at. It's true. So today, all you're going to do is have lots of goes and see if I'm worth my money. Because the whole idea is I've come in saying I know a lot about story, and I'm really good at imparting that information. So by definition, I should know more about story than you. So if you learn nothing new, ask for your money back. I don't think you've paid, have you? So you can have it back. But likewise, if it's over your head and I can't teach you anything about story, you know no more, you're baffled, well then you should ask for your money back. For the same reason. And actually the only person, because you haven't paid, that can give your money back is Keith from TfL. He'll refund your tube fare. Because it's my job to be good at showing you how to tell stories. It's not your job to already be good at stories. Do you see what I mean by that? We've got such a screwed up idea of education. I'm sure it comes from our childhood, from our formal education. But I'll tell you about that another time. Right now, Keith and you are going to play a game. So Keith's going to say to you, what comes first? And one of you is going to shout out something. So you could say, you sit down. Or you could say, you make a cup of tea. Then he's going to say, what comes next? Okay? And then someone else is going to shout something else out. And whatever they say, if they say make a cup of tea, just mime it. You don't have to be, it doesn't have to be good. You can just go, ooh, cup of tea. Right? Okay? You got it? And you say, what comes next? Okay? All right. So, Keith, could you say to the audience, just loudly say to the people at the back in your best Shakespearean voice. Because you don't really need it because you're just saying what comes next. They'll know. And then just do whatever they say. Yeah, what comes first?
What comes first?
Shower.
What was that? I heard shower. Shower. Very good.
What comes next?
Toilet.
What comes next?
Running.
What comes next?
Heart attack.
What comes next?
Funeral.
Okay, thank you very much. Big round of applause for Keith. Hey, take a seat, Keith. All right. Okay, so what do we have? Shower, loo, running, heart attack, funeral. If a movie started this way, would you be surprised? Probably a bit, yeah. If somebody had a shower, went to the loo, ran, had a heart attack and died, that would probably be an unusual beginning to a film. It's not impossible, but it's unusual. This is actually quite an advanced group. No, seriously. Because I'll tell you what 99 out of 100 groups do. Because I used to teach a lot of improvisation, so I know this is just absolutely part of the course. They'll say, shower, have a shower, what comes next? You jump rope, what comes next? Karaoke, what comes next? You're flying a plane, what comes next? You fall in jelly. So every single suggestion is disconnected. And children don't do that. Children have one thing influenced by another. But grown-ups normally want their suggestion to be discreet and original. They want their suggestion not to be influenced by anyone else because it feels more important if they came up with it whole. So the fact that your suggestions they weren't massively disconnected. So there was shower, loo, running, which is a little bit disconnected, but you could see that. You can see someone getting up in the morning having a shower. They probably run after they have they probably shower after they have a run. But you can kind of see the idea of getting ready to go out and then exercising. That's basically connected. But running followed by a heart attack, followed by a funeral, definitely connected. No question. Running, heart attack, funeral, which Keith will not happen in real life. But those things are connected. And so that's a very unusual group that starts with being inspired by each other. And that's the first step of story. It's the first reason that Breaking Bad is more compelling than Newsnight, because one thing happens because of another. Because of that is the most crucial piece of story that is almost invariably left out of corporate presentations. And I know that it is because this happens. So blah, 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 end of this slide. Don't know what I've got to say next. Let me check on the slide. Oh, yeah, going forward. One slide, the slides could be in any order, really, because one slide does not anticipate the next. This slide doesn't end with, and because of that, boom, this. If that's all you took away was because of that, this, automatically your communication would be more compelling. Because of that, because of the running, the heart attack, because of the heart attack, the funeral. Most corporate communication leaves out because of that. It's just this and randomly that. And there's an odd because of that, but mostly not. Here's the thing, though. Do we really care about this character, this person, having a heart attack and dying? Was anyone moved by that? Anyone alarmed by it? Not really, we just kind of laughed. Why? Why, if you're watching a film and somebody has a heart attack and dies, do you go, or are you moved in some way, or like terrified, or like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Oh, because of that, this. Why do you have a stronger reaction when you're watching a film or your favourite box set TV show, but not here? Identify with the character, emotionally involved. Why? Yes, but if you just came in on it and there was music, you wouldn't still care. Why do you care? Yes, but again, here's the thing. It could be actually real. If you're reading a newspaper and you see someone's gone for a run and had a heart attack and died, you think, oh, that's really sad. And then you can easily turn the page and go, what's on TV? That doesn't stay with you the way it does if you're watching a film. Yes, yes. If you're reading that newspaper article and you flick through and you think, oh my God, I know that guy. Isn't he that guy that was running that corner shop? I remember him. Then you'll read the whole thing, right? But if he's your next door neighbour, you really like, oh my God, that's Frank. If he's your godfather, you start to cry. If it's your dad, or your husband, or your son, that could ruin your life, right? Absolutely devastating. The better you know your hero, the more you care about what happens to them. The better you know the hero, because this story is a headline. This guy isn't a hero. He's just a headline. It's just man who's showered has heart attack and dies while running. All we know about him is he showers and goes to the loo. But we pretty much know that about anybody. That's an assumption we'll make about most people, right? I don't know anything about this guy, so it's hard to care when he dies. The truth is, guys, storytelling is just this. Introducing the audience to someone and letting them in, letting them get to know them so that they care when you torture them. That's what storytelling is, in a nutshell. There are no stories that don't involve bad things happening. And there's no stories really that include only things you would want to have happen to you, put it that way. All stories include bad things happening, but the only reason we care about those things is because we know the person it's happening to. Could I have another volunteer, please? Somebody else up, someone who wants to have lots of goes. As you can see, this job comes with no responsibility. This is the best job in the room. Somebody else up? Lovely, big round of applause. What's your name? Julie. Julie from Essex County Council Youth. Boom. A lot of stories there. Okay. Julie, could you ask the audience what comes first?
What comes first?
Alarm.
What's next? What comes next?
Could you just fill it in a little bit more? When you say alarm, in isolation, whereas if you say your alarm goes off or a fire alarm goes off, that just tells us a little bit more. So could you just fill it in a little bit more? You don't need to just say one word, like shower or loo. You can say you have a shower or you go to the loo, right? So what kind of alarm is that?
Alarm clock.
An alarm clock. Your alarm clock so could you say your alarm clock goes off, just to sort of paint it a little bit more for her? So your alarm clock goes off. Oh. Okay, so what comes next?
You realise you've overslept.
You realise you've overslept. Okay. What comes next?
Go back to sleep.
Go back to sleep. What comes next?
There's a knock at the door.
There's a knock at the door. What comes next? What comes next?
You realise you're not in your own bed.
Ah, you realise you're not in your own bed. What comes next?
They shout it's the police.
They shout it's the police. What comes next?
You have no idea who the other person in the bed is.
You have no idea who the other person in the bed is. What comes next? The other person's dead. What comes next?
You have a cup of tea.
You have a cup of tea. Okay. Thank you very much. Big round of applause for Julia. Okay. So this looks a lot more like a story than the last one, doesn't it? Rather than shower, loo, run, heart attack, die, this now really does look like a story. The alarm goes off, you wake up, you've overslept, you try and go back to sleep. There's a knock at the door, you wake up, you realise you're not in your bed, and you don't know who the person in the bed next to you is. The police shout, someone at the door shouts, "It's the police," and you realise the person next to you is dead. That's a great setup, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. That is a significant improvement on the last one. We are getting somewhere. How do we feel about our hero? Yeah. Yes, absolutely. There's a catharsis in watching that. We still don't really know anything about her. So this is a good beginning to a story, but it's a very advanced way to tell a story. It's a very, very advanced way to tell a story. So it's almost like a flash forward. So, at the very beginning of Breaking Bad, does everyone know Breaking Bad as a reference point? Most people will know it. Basically, even if you don't know it, you know the concept of it. Mild-mannered chemistry teacher is told he's going to die of cancer and is leaving his family in the lurch financially because it's America and no one will pay your medical bills. And his wife is pregnant and has a teenage son with a disability, so he can't leave them with no money. Brother-in-law, DEA, drug squad guy, so he has some insight into how much money drug dealers make and decides, because he's a chemistry teacher, he can make perfect crystal meth. And so it's mild-mannered chemistry teacher. That's the setup, basically. I've not spoiled anything. That is what happens in the first 5 minutes. That's the concept. So it's like how this mild-mannered chemistry teacher becomes a meth dealer, a crystal meth dealer. Now, that story opens, if you've seen the first episode, not with the mild-mannered chemistry teacher being a mild-mannered chemistry teacher. Hello, I'm a chemistry teacher. This is a blackboard. This is me teaching children. It doesn't start like that. It starts with a man in a sort of like an SUV, like a camper van, in only his underwear, careering through the desert. It's something terrible happening. I think the van's on fire or something, and then with police sirens in the background, and he gets out of the van with a gun. And then we cut back to mild-mannered, this is, 2 weeks earlier, mild-mannered chemistry teacher. Here's a blackboard. Here's my normal life. And that is a device that's used a lot now to keep you watching. Hey, don't worry. This isn't just going to all be about a mild-mannered chemistry teacher. We're getting to that really exciting thing. And it's a really great story trick because it's saying if you keep waiting, you're going to find out why this mild-mannered chemistry teacher is in his underwear in the desert with police sirens and a gun. Because something obviously dramatic happens to get him from A to B. That is such a useful thing to know. What if you put something very spectacular at the beginning of your presentation or your e-learning and said, I'm not telling you how we're going to get there, but I promise you we will. That would keep somebody watching, listening, engaging, wouldn't it? Because you think, I just need to know. So if someone's then, I should go outside and take this call, they think, I'm going to miss, why did that happen though? So it's a really useful thing to do. But it is a narrative trick. You're shuffling the most exciting bit of the narrative to put it at the beginning. So this person, this hero, we don't know anything about. Now the reason we start with something ordinary. The alarm goes off, right? And then immediately we go to the trouble. We go right to lots and lots of bad things happening. The police are at the door, there's a dead body, she doesn't know who it is. Immediately into like a North by Northwest scenario where this person's now on the lam. And that's because we want bad stuff to happen straight away. There are no stories about things you wouldn't want to have happen to you, so we think that the conflict, that the bad stuff is the most interesting stuff, and we pack it up the front. But actually, until we know who it's happening to, or unless we're now prepared to cut back to last night, and then we find out, she was on her hen night, and her name's Andrea, and she's marrying this guy, and it's a childhood sweetheart, and she's never slept with anybody else, and they're just out on the town for one exciting night, and she meets this guy, and then by the time he's dead and the police are at the door, we care, right? So at this point, we would have to cut back in order to care, because if she just goes on the run, and we don't know whether she's got 3 kids and a husband, whether she's homeless, whether she's 16 years old and still lives with her mum and dad. If we don't know anything about her, it's going to be hard to care when she starts running, right? Do you see what I mean? Again, it's a headline. It can only be a flash forward. So we need to build a scenario in which we find out more about this person before we torture them. This time we're going to put it off. We're not allowed any torture. We've got to build a world before we start the bad stuff. And I call this a platform. It's just a platform of this hero's world. I need another volunteer. Someone who wants to have lots of goes. You can have 2 goes. Are you sure? Does no one else want to go? You do want to go. Okay, Julie, I'm going to bring you back because I'm almost certainly going to need you. What's your name? Edwin. Big round of applause for Edwin. Okay. Edwin, ask the audience what comes first, and we're going to build a world for your character to live in. We are not allowed to torture him yet, okay? Because this is a traditional narrative. We're not going to play with a flash forward. What comes first?
What comes first?
You're in a space hopper race.
You're in a space hopper race. What comes next?
Starts raining.
It starts raining. Okay, is that the best thing that could happen while you're in a space hopper race? Or is that, it's not torture, is it? But it's irritation. Okay, so we're going to build a positive platform just to see if we can. One of the children hurts themselves. Do you see how easy it is to kill stuff and be negative? We just can't stop it because we're like, that's more interesting than anything good. See if we can build a platform that is positive. You win the space hopper race. Yay. What comes next? You're disqualified for drug taking. Is that positive? No. You're presented with a medal. Brilliant. So could you just stand up and present him with a medal? Present him with a medal. What comes next?
Your children high-five you.
Your children high-five you. Could you be one of his children? Yeah. You might have to get on your knees next time we need you as a child. Thank you. What comes next?
Turn professional.
You turn professional. What comes next? Sponsorship money? Could someone give him sponsorship money? Someone gives you sponsorship money? You, sir? Oh, yep, lovely. What comes next? You are in the Olympics. Okay, what comes next? You win the gold. Okay, thank you very much, Edwin. It's Edwin's name badge. Oh, well, we know who he is. You're famous now, Edwin. You don't need a name badge anymore. Okay, so this is positive, but do we really feel we know who this character is? It's interesting, isn't it? It's tough to do, isn't it? It still feels like a headline, just a positive headline. Space Hopper comes home for Team GB. It's a headline. It's a headline, right? It's just a guy that we know. It's just now he's just a sporting hero headline. We know loads of sporting heroes. We've seen them high-five their kids. We've seen them interviewed going, I'm just so thrilled with today's results. It's been such hard work. Space hopper training, it is really 24/7. It's totally grueling. But we bounced home to victory today, and I just want to say thanks to my whole team. I'm just it's the whole team, guys. And thanks to all the fans, Space Hopper fans. They're the best in the world. We don't know anything about what makes this Space Hopper guy different from any other Space Hopper hero in the world. That's why it doesn't feel like we're being introduced to a character in a movie. What makes this guy different from all the other guys? So here's an easy way to do that. say you've got a policewoman, okay? And she checks her, she puts on her uniform, she puts on her badge, she's special ops, so she checks she's got her gun safe. All of these things would be generic policewoman stuff, right? She's just a policewoman. So at the moment, she's still a headline. Or she could be an extra in a James Bond film. If she got gunned down, the James Bond would be like, we see hundreds of people get killed in James Bond's films, but if James Bond even so much as gets his dinner jacket dirty, we're like, oh, James, right? Because we care about James. He's not a particularly nice guy, actually, but we care about him because we know him. But we can see loads and loads of other people behind him getting blown up, and we don't care about any of them. Story is not just bad stuff happening or good stuff happening. It's not, some people think drama is conflict. That's not the case, really. Because if you think of Cinderella, the part of the story the children love the most is her dress being changed from rags into a ball gown. That's not conflict. It's change. But we care because we know a lot about Cinderella before that happens. And we like her. We're engaged with her. But we know what makes Cinderella different from every other girl that ever wanted to go to a party. Because we've all wanted to go to a party. That's really the worst thing that happens in Cinderella, is she's not allowed to go to a party. And that really has happened to all of us. At some point, we've been disappointed to not attend a function. It's not that great drama, really, is it? It's not. But it's specific to that hero. Nobody cares if Hamlet can't go to a ball. Because Hamlet doesn't want to go to a ball. He's in a bad mood. He hates balls. He hates all parties. At the beginning of Hamlet, he's in fact at a party and is super pissed off about it. But nobody expects Cinderella to avenge her dead father, although her father is dead in most tellings of that story, because that's not the right trouble for the right hero. We know a lot about our heroes before bad stuff happens to them. So if the policewoman puts on her uniform, checks her badge, special ops gun, she's just a policewoman. But then, if she checks her rosary beads, now we're like, this is what makes this policewoman different from all the other policewomen. She's religious, she's superstitious, maybe she's worried about something. And we start to fill those things in. She looks at a picture of her kids, or she texts her kids good night. She checks her holiday plan. She's going to Mallorca tomorrow with her children. Now suddenly we start to care about this policewoman. She's got to get back for her kids, right? She's going to Mallorca. She's really excited. She hasn't had a holiday in 2 years. She checks her rosary beads again. She's really quite Catholic now. She must be nervous about something, right? Now she's different from all the other policewomen we know. So now if she gets into danger, because we know she's going on a special operation tonight, and she's taken out her gun and polished it, she hasn't used it in 6 months. She's only used it for training. Now we think, oh God, right? We're now concerned for her. And all we've really seen is her text her kids and check her holiday destination. But we know something about her is different. Now, say we have a nun, and the nun is getting ready, and she puts on a habit, and she checks her Bible, and she checks her rosary beads, and she does her prayers, and then she checks her gun. Now we know this nun is different from all of the other nuns, right? Because this nun has some secret. She's got something going on. And while the Bible and the rosary beads and the habit don't have to come back, the gun does. The gun has to be referenced. If we then just go through a normal old nun day and she has some funny altercation with the Mother Superior and the gun is never mentioned, the audience will shout and they will want their money back. They'll be, what? I invested in this nun specifically because she was a gun nun. I hung around to see that gun fired, which is something Chekhov said. Chekhov said, if you show a gun in the first act, you have to fire it in the third act. And conversely, if you fire it in the third act, you've got to show it in the first act. You can't just suddenly have a gun. A nun cannot suddenly have a gun, but you can plant a gun on her, and you can not even know where that's going. But the audience will stick with you if the nun has a gun, because she's different from all other nuns. So Space Hopper Guy, if Space Hopper Guy rings his mum and says, I'll do it for you, mum. I know Dad couldn't do it, but I'll do it. Now we're immediately invested in this race. If Space Hopper Guy is down to his last £5, but if he makes the race, he's going to get sponsorship money, which is going to turn his life around for some reason, because we know his kid needs a really expensive operation because he's in America, or possibly soon in Britain. Let's hope not. Then we have a vested interest in him because we know what makes him different from all the other space hopper guys in the world, right? Somebody else up. We need another volunteer. This is fun up here. This is fun. It's a fun job. Are you all in learning? You know how experiential learning's better than just listening about things, right? Okay. Lady at the back, yes. It is interesting though, isn't it? As much as we know that, so if you're all in learning, you have to remember how hard it is for the people who are learning to get up, to do something. It's just worth noticing that if you, the people who are experts in learning and know that experience is better than hearing about things, don't want goes, how much more do they not want goes? It's only human, by which I mean it's only grown up. It's only adult. But it is interesting. It's just interesting information for you. What's your name? Is that a fake name? Because it's not going to be easier with a fake name, I'm just saying. Jeanette, could you ask the audience what comes first?
What comes first?
Wake up in the morning.
Look at a picture of your family on the side of the bedside.
Look at a picture of your family. I'm just repeating them in case people at the back can't hear. Is that helpful or can you hear? Okay. Look at a picture of the family on the bedside table. What comes next? Get dressed for your wedding. Yeah? Don't be so surprised. You know it's your wedding. Get dressed for your wedding. Okay. Yep. What comes next? Start crying. What comes next? Read a text on your phone.
It's from the best man.
It's from the best man. What comes next? He says, don't do it. What comes next? You stamp on the phone. What comes next? You go to a bedside drawer and take out a dagger. Gosh, we're in the right building. What comes next? You put it in your garter belt. What comes next? The car arrives. What comes next? You arrive at the church. What comes next? The best man comes up to greet you. You, sir, you're the best man. What comes next? What comes next? Try not to have any emotion they don't give you. Because I don't know what that was, but there was a whole thing going on there. Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah. No. Just because you're the puppets, they're the ones imbuing you with emotions, they might give you something different. So could you just stand on the side so they can all see you? Lovely. Okay, perfect. What comes next? Gets down on one knee. What comes next? She slaps him. What comes next? He grabs her hand. What comes next? The husband sees it. You're the husband. Quick. What comes next? Just turn to the side so they can all see you. What comes next? They start to argue. What comes next? He grabs the dagger. How does he know it's there? How does he know it's there? I'm fascinated. What comes next? The best man and the groom start to fight. What comes next? The bride gets stabbed. And scene. Thank you very much. I'm not going to talk about the gender politics in that story and my issues with a bride packing a dagger and then having it taken from her while two men fight and then stab her, because that's everything that's wrong with the world. But in terms of story, we're starting to get there. Can you see? We start with a girl getting married. Now, she looks at a picture of her family, but we don't know who's in the picture. It's sort of generic family. So if she looks at a picture of her mum and her dad on their wedding day and smiles, we think, she's now wants to be like a mum and dad. She, maybe says to the photo, I wish you were here. Now we know she's sort of out on her own. Or if she looks at a picture of her kids, right, and she's getting married and she's already got kids, those things are different and those things will give us something different. If she looks at all of her relatives, a picture of her 100 relatives at a family reunion, we know she's part of a big family. If she looks at a picture of her family and it's the mafia family, that's a different kind of wedding, right? So all of these things will give us something different. The more specific and detailed you can be, the more we care. Because again, family is an assumption we'll make about most people. It's like most people shower and go to the loo in the morning. So it doesn't give us any extra. But if we fill in that about who the family is, or even her attitude towards the family. So whoever said family may have been expecting the next person to go, to fill that in. But do feel free to fill in family yourself with something more specific. Be bold, be brave, because you can't be wrong early in the story. It's impossible. The more specific you are, the more the audience will go, and the more they'll be hooked in. She puts on her wedding dress, which we like, because we think, this is an important day. This is not an ordinary day. This is an exciting, important day. We're watching this day because it's an important day. We like it. But then she starts to cry. Now, we're still trying to build a platform at this point, but there is that feeling of we want it to be interesting, so we must give her something back. But it's okay, because she doesn't call the wedding off. We just know she has an attitude towards the wedding. And we don't really know why she's crying. Maybe she's crying out of happiness. We didn't get that feeling, though, did we? We got the feeling she didn't want to go through with it. And then she gets a text from the best man saying, don't do it. But it's a little bit negative for building a platform, but because the action keeps propelling forward and it makes a promise, it works. Do you see what I mean by that? It promises something. If you get a text from your best man on the wedding day saying don't do it, what do you guess? What guesses might you make about why he sends that text? They're having an affair. Why else might he be texting? He's going to ask her to marry him. Why else might he not want her to go through with it? He knows something about the groom. You have raised questions in the mind of the audience. You've made a promise. So this wedding is not going to be like every other wedding. This person might be in danger. This person might be having an affair. This person might be marrying for money instead of love. This person might have committed to somebody, fallen in love with someone else, but feels she can't break his heart. There might be all sorts of reasons why the best man doesn't want to go through with it. So now it's harder to look away. You never find those things by trying hard to come up with good ideas. Did anyone else expect the best man to text, don't go through with it? I didn't see that coming. Did anyone see that coming? No, great. Who said that? Who said the best man texts? You must remember if you said it. How can you remember? You said reads a text. Who said best man? It's from the best man. Lovely. Who says it's the best man? And who said he says don't go through with it? Great. Who? You did. Wow. From behind me. I didn't see that coming at all. Yeah. So that sequence, you get there by saying the next obvious thing rather than reaching for something clever. Do you see what I mean by that? When you try and come up with something interesting for a story, you end up generally with something that's too interesting the audience can't understand, like Aliens Land. Aliens Land, aliens should land if aliens have been promised, but sometimes you end up with something so extraordinary that it doesn't make any sense to the audience, and it's like a French film. Where you go, a David Lynch. Listen, and hey, there's an audience for that. It's just a smaller audience. I have a friend who went to see Mulholland Drive, and he came back from the cinema, and he went, David Lynch. And he's very intellectual, this guy, and an actor, and very prides himself on being into sort of art house cinema and things. But he said, I get so annoyed with David Lynch because they just don't know what's going on. And I just was sitting there watching and thinking, I'm going to walk out of this because it's inscrutable, it's nonsense. And then he put on Two Girls Kissing, and I thought, give it a minute. And I swear that's how David Lynch does it. It's like, oh, well, all right. Well, I'll hang around for 5 more minutes. You've got to make some kind of promise. Some kind of promise or another. But this story, with those suggestions, because one suggestion is obvious. If there's a text, We want it to be a text from someone involved in the wedding, right? We don't want it to be Vodafone. No offence to you from Vodafone, Edwin. No, saying, oh, you're offering you a new payment plan, right? We don't want it to be from somebody who is irrelevant to this. So the best man is a good next obvious suggestion. He says don't do it. It's about the wedding. It raises the stakes on the wedding, right? These obvious suggestions is when you're trusting your obvious. And your obvious is your talent. You do not find your talent, your voice, by trying hard to think up good things. You end up with, things you find in the innovations catalogue, like a garden gnome shower radio that nobody wants. It's just a gag gift. It's too much. You don't come up with Velcro or Post-it notes by trying hard to think up good things. You come up with those things by trusting what's obvious to you. Do you see what I mean by that? Trust your obvious. What time is it? 10 o'clock. Okay, do we have to finish? Have we got time for one more? Okay, we're going to do one more quick one. And in this one, you're going to build a platform for the hero, and we're going to hold off getting them into trouble, and then we're going to get them into trouble. We're going to find some kind of torture for them. Okay, somebody else up? It doesn't have to be literal torture. Someone just made a face like, that's a terrible thing to say. I don't mean literal. Remember, for Cinderella, torture is not being able to go to the ball. Somebody else up? Someone else who wants to have lots of goes, who realises that experiential learning is the best. Someone who has not lost their childhood innocence. Someone who doesn't cry themselves to sleep at night because they're dead inside. Somebody who still has a soul and breathes in and out because they love life and not just because they have to or they'd be fired. Harriet, big round of applause. Yeah, come on, Harriet. You're from Cardiff Pinnacle. Big round of applause for Harriet. Give her encouragement. What comes first? What comes first?
You get on the bus.
You get on the bus.
And Kevin tells you to sit on the third seat from the back.
Who's Kevin exactly, Rob? You get on the bus and Kevin tells you to sit third seat from the back. I'm worried that's a little bit innovations catalogue, but we'll go with it because we want to know who Kevin is quite badly now, and I can't wait to find out. What comes next?
Kevin's the bus driver.
I heard Kevin's the bus driver. What comes next? There's a package on the seat next to you. What comes next? I heard you pick it up, start to open it, and I heard also it's a birthday cake. What comes next? It's got a file in it. What comes next? The bus turns into Wandsworth Prison. It's a David Lynch! Big round of applause for Harriet. Thank you very much. Okay. That's very useful to know that. If you start with something that's just a little bit out there, and then you add another out there thing and another out there thing, it can only be short, right? Because it's like a sketch. It's surreal. It's a bit Monty Python or something. But there's a reason those have to be sketches, because we can't sustain interest in that for terribly long. It's fun. It's good fun. It's very playful. It's worth doing. If you really want to learn how to tell stories, what you need to do is get a group of 6 people, lock yourselves in a room and play this game and give each other feedback, right? And go, okay, no, that's too complicated. Let's kill it. Okay, go again. Let's just try and build a hero. Let's try and build a hero. It's really easy to learn it. It just takes some time, and you've got to keep playing it. But now, when you watch movies and watch TV shows, see if you can identify who the hero is and how much we know about them before something bad happens. And movie makers have got incredibly economical at telling you what you need to know before the stuff happens. They've got so economical at it now. Just visuals, but we do have to know something before we care. Now, when you're giving a presentation in the corporate world, or you're delivering training, communicating in any way, here's the thing. Who is usually, say you're talking about your company to a new client, who is usually the hero of that story? Say if you were presenting, Rob, about partnership to a client, and you're telling them all about partnership. Who's the hero of that story? Yes, probably you, Rob. Who would the client like it to be? Yeah. Because the hero is the person in the story who is maximally changed. That's how you know who the hero is. The hero is the one who has the greatest change. So Luke Skywalker starts off, he's a farm boy on a planet living with his aunt and uncle, everything's fine, and then someone comes along and says, "You, Luke, you are a great Jedi." He goes, "I don't want to be a Jedi." "No, you're a Jedi, you've got to come with us, you've got to fight the dark side." "I don't know anything about the dark side, I'm definitely not a Jedi, I just want to be a farm boy." "You've got to." "Oh, okay then." And how does he end up? As an amazing Jedi fighting his father, spoiler alert, from the dark side, right? Maximally changed. Now, Han Solo is a great character, but he's the same at the beginning as he is in the end. He's kind of a wisecracking mercenary. He changes a bit because he kind of comes over to the cause, but he's basically the same guy, so he's not the hero of the story. Cinderella is the hero of Cinderella, not the prince, because she starts out sitting in the ashes crying, or not crying, but being actually quite cheerful about it, doing her best, but ends up married to a prince in a ball gown. It's the person who's maximally changed. When you present about your company, if you can make your audience the hero, then they will feel changed because of you. Maya Angelou died this week, and I put a quote on Twitter. One of her, I think, her most wonderful quotes was, "People will not remember what you did or said. They will remember the way you made them feel." And if you can make them feel different because you were in the room, if you can make them feel changed, if you can tell them the story about how your company is going to change things for them, it's not about you, it's about them, then you will see people being compelled to come towards you. They'll be calling you. But it's the same if you're working with people who are learning. If you can make them the hero of the learning, make them maximally changed. It's not about giving them information or teaching them skills, but if you can give them an experience where they are changed and they feel like a hero, they will be gripped and compelled to complete that learning, and they will remember it forever. I was working with someone recently, and they were telling a story about, it was basically, they were tech guys, and they had to rip out everybody's computers, which really pissed everyone off, as you can imagine. And they said, everything's going to be very difficult for 2 weeks, but then you're going to have a much better system and be able to deliver more quickly for the client. And the way they presented this information was all about the software, because they were tech guys, and they loved to tell the story about how brilliant the software was. But what do those people who they're talking to care about? Who do they want to be the hero of the story? Them. They want to be the hero and so they ended up starting off with, "You guys work too late. You're here till 10 o'clock every night. This system isn't fast enough." And everyone said, "Yes, we do work too hard and we are here too late. Right, we want to fix that. We want to change that for you because we want to make your lives easier." "Oh, we're right in there then. Okay, for 2 weeks, it's going to get much worse. We're going to torture the hero." And they were like, "Oh, what? What?" "Yeah, but at the end of that..." And they told it like a story and everyone was on board. But then they had to pitch it upstairs to get the money to do it. And they were going to tell the story the same way. And I was like, but the guys upstairs do not care about the people down there working till 10 o'clock. If you start with the guys downstairs are working too hard, they're not going to care at all. Who needs to be the hero if you're pitching it to the guys upstairs? Maybe, but what if they're really not involved? What do the guys upstairs care about? Yes. So we made money the hero of that story. Started out with, we're spending too much. We're paying too much overtime. Our clients are waiting too long and we're leaving us. We will make more money if we bring in this incredibly expensive system. And then the guys upstairs signed it off. Then they had to tell the clients, and they made the clients the hero. So you need to think about who you're talking to and what they care about. Maximal change. Who your hero is. If you want to finish your story, just look back. You can only finish your story with something you started with. So if you had a habit, a Bible, rosary beads and a gun, it's got to be one of those things. You can't suddenly bring in a pot plant if there was no pot plant at the beginning, right? That's how you finish your story. You reincorporate something, you call something back. And that is really what you need to know about story in and out. You've got all the skills now and all the tools. You just need to watch a lot and then go, oh, what are they doing there? What are they doing there? How could I use that? And work it back, whether you're creating an e-learning program, whether you're giving a presentation, whether you're teaching them to give presentations, you need to look at what the principles are of the most compelling stories you know and bring them back into your corporate communications. And it will make every piece of communication you have more exciting, more compelling. People will be drawn to you. They'll listen, they'll remember, and most crucially, they'll feel differently because you were in the room. Thank you very much. I've been Deborah Frances-White.